right. Boy.
Mare's tail clouds wave in the sky and the grass hang around them.
Ooh, that's a pretty sentence. Mare's tail, clouds wave in the sky, and the grass sang around us. Why are we talking? There's no talking. Class has started. Star, and I want everyone to focus on what we're doing, which is not chatting with your friends. All right. Figurative speech, this is all about. Are there really mare's tails in the clouds?
No.
Is the grass singing? No. But it's all figurative speech. What is a mare? What is a mare? Emmy? Yes. Horse, of course. So our book is called Dandelions, but I don't see dandelions on the front. When I think of dandelions, I think of the little flowers that are all over the outside in the yard, the green, the yellow flowers. So let's find out what dandelions are in this book. When we came to Nebraska territory in the spring, our oxen Brownie and Blackie pulled the wagon, and our cow, Moo, was tied on back. It was a long way from my grandparents' home in Illinois. A long, long way. Papa laughed and sang. Look at it, Emma, he said to Mama. Miles and miles of free land. But it's so lonely, Mama said. We won't be lonely, Papa promised. We have each other and the girls, and in the fall there will be a new baby. His voice sounded almost holy. A new baby in a new land. My little sister Rebecca put her mouth close to my ear. Where are the trees, Zoe? We'll come to some, I said. We did. Not many. The Great Plains. This is what Nebraska, lots of Illinois, and some parts of Wisconsin looked like when the territories were being discovered. Lots and lots of grasses and not a lot else. Very few trees. This reminds me of Little House on the Prairie. Day after day, we trundled along, our wagon wheels making their own tracks through the tall grass. See how the grass closes behind us, Mama asked. It's as if we'd never been there. We cooked our meals outside the wagon and slept on Mama's quilt spread on the ground. Papa told us the names of the stars and about the moon, how it rose and set, and how the moon and the stars were the same ones that shone over Grandma and Grandpa's house. The very ones we used to see through our bedroom window. When he told us that, I cried a little, but I didn't let Rebecca see. The sound of the wind in the grass was like the sound of the rivers we'd known back home. Day and night, the sound was in our ears. Sometimes we came to real rivers, and when we did, we washed ourselves and topped up our water kegs. Sometimes a river was easy to cross, and sometimes hard, with Brownie and Blackie so frightened as they swam, and us holding on to them and to the wagon too. Sometimes we even had to cross on a ferry pulled by ropes. It had been weeks since we started our journey, 12 miles a day if we were lucky. One day we did 17. Can you imagine? That's not very much. But when you're traveling this way, 11 miles is nothing. I live in Mount Horeb, which is about 20 miles from here, 25. Maybe a little more. And that takes me, 15, 20 minutes? So here is Illinois. Here is Nebraska. So they didn't say where in Illinois they were at, what part of Illinois and what part of Nebraska they're going to. But I mean, if we were driving from Illinois to Nebraska, it would take a decent amount of time. To drive to Nebraska from Wisconsin takes about 8 to 9 hours. So, not a short trip, but when we're a much different driving than with a covered wagon. So that is what they have. Then on a morning when the roar of the grass seemed quieter, Papa jumped down from the wagon and shouted, "We're here!" It looked no different than any other land that we crossed already. "How do you know this is ours?" I asked. Papa showed me a sign with our name, Bolton, on them. He pulled out out of the ground and waved it around. "See? My claim stake. I planted it here when I came last spring." He held the sign high and raised his face to the sky. "We're here," he called again. I thought maybe this time he was talking to God. What does it mean when he said, "My claim stake"? Right there. He's got his name on it. So when the territories were being discovered and people were moving into the territories, Owen, what is a claim?
Like you own it after you put something on it.
So nobody owned the land. And so this is how they made ownership. They would go and they would put a claim on it. Or just a stake with their name on it and hoped that when they got there it was still there. No guarantees. There was no money, there was no purchase. It was a claim. Kind of risky, but that is how it was done. I will never forget the way Mama looked as she got down from the wagon and stood in the knee-high grass. She shaded her eyes. This is where we are to live our lives, she asked Papa, and her voice was as still as the land around us. There is no water. Papa smiled. "I told you we'll have to sink a well," meaning you have to dig really deep to find the water. "The water is below. All we need is a pick and a shovel and those we brought." "Couldn't we live beside the river?" Rebecca asked. "I liked it by the river." Her lips quivered. "All that land is taken, Becca, but we'll do fine here. You'll see." He put a hand on Mama's shoulder. "After the well is sunk, we'll put in the crops. It's almost past seeding time, and then we'll start on the house." He slipped in his arms down to circle her waist. "There's those neighbors I visited, the Svensons. They are just 3-hour ride farther on, so they're only neighbors 3 hours away. They will advise us, and I am going to borrow their plow. We will go there before we settle." Whew. It sounds a little scary.
Yeah.
Nobody for 3 hours away. We started for the Spensons the very next morning. It was hard to see their house. It was so much like the empty land around it. I think we must have missed it, but if Papa hadn't known exactly where he was going. I don't know how he did know, but Papa is smart. Mrs. Svensson came running toward us, and Papa stopped the wagon so Mama could get down. She and Mrs. Svensson met and hugged and cried. "Does Mama know her already?" I whispered to Papa. "No, but they are happy to see each other. It has been a long time since either of them has seen another woman." He sounded sad, but Papa is never sad for long. "It'll be different soon. Other settlers will come." "The ones that will live by the river?" Rebecca asked. "Those and others. It will be crowded. Already there is a town I told you about, only a day's ride from here. There will be so many towns." I looked around. It was hard to imagine. So it would be like if you had to go if you needed something, it would take you a day to get there and back. What does this book remind you that we read earlier this year? Olivia.
They're all clean and tall.
Yes. Yes. And who are you reading about, Miss Tessa? Does this remind you of that as well? Yes. Pioneers. "Come see our house," said Mr. Svensson called. "It was made of sod." What is sod? It was made out of sod. Helen. Seth? No, not hay. Kind of close though. Wensheen.
Kind of like mud.
Like what?
Kind of like mud.
Kind of like mud. It's ground. It's like grass. They dig up the ground and they make houses with it. So it's a house made out of sod. and chunks like brick cut in from the ground, and it had one door and one window that Mr. Svensson had bought for $1.25 in town. He kept touching the window as if he couldn't believe it was there. The house was called a sadi. In it was a chunk stove they brought with them from Minnesota, a bed, a table, and benches. They also had 5 boys. Oh my goodness. And a pig that they kept in a pit, and a canary they kept in a cage. Becca and I liked the pig and the canary. The Svenssons shared their dinner with us. Mama admired the beautiful tablecloth that was spread on the table. Her fingers traced the roses. Flowers, roses, she said. Remember the way they smell. I remember, Mrs. Svensson said. Bits of earth kept falling from the roof as they ate, and Mrs. Svensson kept picking them off the table. Twice black beetles fell too. You get used to it, she said. Once a snake this big dropped. One of the boys spread his arms wide and leered at Rebecca and me. I guess we were supposed to faint. We didn't. The canary sang a little song, and we all turned to look at it. I miss the songbirds, Mrs. Svensson said. There are so few here. Its song is so sweet, Mama said, so sweet. I think it was tears that made her eyes shine. So do you think this is going to be kind of a hard life? Yeah. We stayed over that night, Mama and Papa sleeping on the floor inside the sadi, all of us children outside. Are you girls afraid of mice? The middle boy asked. There are millions of them. They run all over you. Ugh. They'll probably nest in your hair.
No.
Rebecca and I like mice, I told him. He pointed up the stars and told the boys their names. Castor and Pollux, the Leo, the lion, and the east. But they laughed, their horrible, hooting laughs, and said we were making it up. Only people and animals had names, they said. We left early the next morning, the plow in the wagon, our water kegs refilled. Mr. Svensson gave Papa a tree branch to use as a rig pole for our house and 2 forked tree limbs from the river that would help hold the sod on our roof. He and Papa talked about how it would be done, and Mr. Svensson said he'd come and lend a hand. Papa said that he would be obliged. He said that he had 3 strong helpers of his own, too. He meant us, and he sounded so proud I felt we could do anything. Good neighbors, he told Mama as we rattled along. He and Rebecca and I walked beside the wagon because it was so heavy with the plow, and the wood, and Mama's baby that was growing bigger inside her. Will our house be just like theirs, Mama asked. Papa glanced at her sideways and nodded. I'll get us a window and a canary too, he promised. Would you like to live in a sod house where bugs fall down on you?
No. I hate
That would be very hard. Wouldn't there are snakes? Papa said the first thing we must do is make slits in the ground and plant corn. That way we would have food for us and the animals for the coming winter. Then we started on the well. We dug a long way down. It was days before we found water. My gosh, we almost dug ourselves the hole to China, Papa boomed. To China, truly, Rebecca asked, and Papa laughed and drew up a bucket of cloudy water. He let the specks of dirt in it settle so we could all have a drink. In the next week, we cleared the land of hidden rocks and turned the earth and planted the rest of the seed we brought from home. Don't you see, Papa and Mama one night, I don't think he knew I was listening. I could never have made a life for us in Illinois. It would be good here. It was as if he were pleading with her, and I felt sorry for him, though. I wasn't sure why. So do you get a feeling that Mama's not too happy about moving to Nebraska? Yeah. I can't say that I blame her. Well, that's not bad. When the house was up at last, Papa gave thanks for our snug sadi, for a baby that was to come, and for our safe journey. Mare's tail clouds waved in the sky, and the grass sang around us. Very good. It's been a while since you read that sentence. I'd never seen Papa so happy, or Mama so sad. Aww. I knew she missed our grandparents' house in Illinois, where she'd lived all her life. where we'd lived too until Papa decided to move west. The house had walls covered with pretty paper and cupboards and painted china plates inside. Mama didn't say she was remembering that, but I knew. When we'd done our chores and finished our lessons, Rebecca and I always went to play outside. Don't get lost, Mama would whisper. We're only going to pet Moo, we'd tell her, or to pretend in our rock pile. We saved every rock from the field, and a pile could be anything. Out there, our very own mountain or castle or fort. Sometimes we'd see her watching us from inside the door, and I'd think, Mama worries about everything. It was true that the soddy did disappear almost as we stepped away from it, turning into just another hump in the ground. It's like a prairie dog's burrow, Mama said. I bet prairie dogs like their burrows, I told her, and Papa smiled. Mama would stand for hours looking at the curve where grass and sky met. Always nothing, she'd say, always the sameness. I was glad when she spoke even to herself. It was her silence that scared me. Sometimes I felt she'd gone away and I couldn't find her. It was late summer now and scorching hot from red sunshine to red sunset. Our supplies were running low. Mama had a birthday and we used the last of the flour to make Johnny cakes. What's a Johnny cake? Does anybody know what a Johnny cake is? I bet you pretty much all of you have had them. They're called something else. Put syrup on it. Jonathan. Yes, pancakes. Yummy. Who likes pancakes?
I like waffles better. Yeah, waffles are way better.
Jonathan, you don't like pancakes? Have you ever had one? Have you had a pancake? Yeah. Okay. Yes.
I haven't tried waffles.
All right. So now they're running low on food. One day Papa said, Mom and I have talked things over. I must take the wagon into town and stock up. Zoe will come with me. Rebecca and Mama will come as far as Svenson's. They can have a nice visit there till we get back. But I want to go to town too, Rebecca screamed. It's not fair. I don't want to stay with those horrible Svensson boys. Rebecca doesn't scream often, but not going to town was something to scream about. You will come next time, Papa promised her. It's too far and too hot for Mama to make the trip. Mrs. Svensson understands about babies being born, and Mama will be safe there. Zoe is older and can be a help to me. You must be a help to Mama. There is no more to be said. I was very excited, but I tried not to show it because it would make Rebecca feel worse. It took a lot of preparation, but at last we were on our way with Moo tied behind us so she could be milked at the Svensons and so she wouldn't be lonely while we were gone. Our neighbors were glad to see us again. They made a list of things they wanted us to bring back for them, and soon Papa and I were on our way. Matthew, are you sure you can find your way back? Mama said. With breadcrumbs. Try not to worry, Emma. He spoke some more after that, and to me it seemed he was like Mama, talking to himself, though I was there. The heat is bad. I pray Emma can stand it. When the baby comes, it'll ease things for her. But they'll be hard at times, and oh, I pray that God I've done the right thing for her. I didn't dare look at him until I felt him straighten up. He smiled across. Ah, well, we will help each other, my Zoe. The town was lifting itself as if magic out of the distance, small to begin and growing bigger and closer than got. Ooh, look at, there's the town. There was long, muddy streets with just one shop and solid soft goods and guns and cigars. There were 2 saloons, a livery station, and even a hotel with a real dining room that had food. I kept saying, look, Papa, look, wagons and mules teamed with horses and people filled the street. My ears rang with the noises of sounds and the whinnying and braying of the animals. I bobbed up and down on the wagon bench. We slept in the wagon that night under the friendly stars, and next morning I begged Papa to drive us along Front Street. one last time. That'd be a lot more exciting than living out in those tall grasses. Papa was just turning the wagon on the far edge of town when I saw something. Papa, Papa, stop, I shouted. He waved to Brownie and Blackie, and we sat for a few seconds just looking. There, on a patch of sandy ground where the grass began, was yellow mass of dandelions. Dandelions, I whispered. How did they get here? Likely they started from seed brought by chance on a wagon. Put my hand against my face. Dandelions for Mama. Papa got a spade and helped me, and we took the lot, took it all, roots and all. Look, I said, we're bringing a whole dandelion family. Papa smiled. I was worried that the heat would kill them before we got home, but Papa used a little of our precious water to wrap them in. Now I was impatient to leave. Ooh, what is going to happen? You think they're going to grow more dandelions? This is a long story. All the way to the Svensons, I kept leaning back to check on the dandelions. The sky was burning blue and the grass seemed tinged with red fire. It's so hot already. Oh, what if we lose them, Papa? Dandelions are strong. It was late afternoon when we got to the Svensons. Mama and Rebecca came running to meet us. You're back. You found us, she whispered. Of course. Rebecca ate her liquor stick on the way. She thought Papa and I brought it for her because she'd missed the trip to town, and she wanted to share it with me, but I told her I'd eaten mine, and to eat hers, and I'd watch and suffer. Partway along, I whispered the dandelion secret to her. As soon as we got home, we gave Mama her perfume. She loved it. She dabbed some on Rebecca and me. I watched her carefully, but she didn't seem to be remembering the old lilac tree. And I was glad for Papa. I'm sure I didn't sleep at all that night. Still holding the dandelion secret, waiting for morning. Late, I felt Papa step carefully over Rebecca and me, and I heard him carry the dandelions onto the roof. He promised he would. Oh, they're going to plant it on their roof. The sun wasn't even up when Rebecca and I crept from under our quilts. We had two of Mama's cherished spoons, and we scraped trenches in the hard sod of the roof and set the dandelions in. They drooped, and that worried me, but when we gave them water from the bucket, they looked better. Below us, we could hear Mama and Papa getting out of their bed. There's an animal on the roof again, Mama said, and Rebecca put her hand over her mouth to stop her giggles. Then we heard Mama say, "Where have the girls gone?" And she scrambled down from the roof and called, "We're here. Come outside, Mama." I'd wanted to see a golden blaze so dazzling it would hurt our eyes, but above us there was only the green stubble with a patch of two of the wilted flowers. "They're dandelions," I said, fighting down a rush of disappointment. "You can hardly tell." "They're not very pretty, Zoe," Rebecca said. "I wish they were prettier." "They will be," Papa said quickly. "They'll cover the roof and we'll shout, 'This is home,' but their roots have to take hold first." "Maybe they'll never bloom," Mama said. "Maybe they'll just die of loneliness." Then she squeezed my hand. "Oh, Zoe, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. You were such a dear girl to think." "They'll bloom, Mama. They're strong, like us." I was almost crying, and I didn't know why. Mama and Papa were looking at each other. This was about more than the dandelion. I could feel it. Mama then kept shaking her head. Oh, see how long we have here. All right, we're on the last page, friends. Then the sun was rising, red on the line of distance as the four of us stood looking at the roof. I hoped maybe one, just one dandelion might lift his head for us, but not even one did. Mama put her hand around my shoulder and pulled me close. "Don't expect a miracle, Zoe. It will take time." "Can you wait?" I asked, my voice muffled against her. "I can wait," Mama said. Well, that's kind of an interesting story, kind of a sad story, actually. But do you think if the pioneers, when they moved into the new territories, that it was a lonely life? Yeah. So, remember, the Louisiana Territory started here, and that went all the way, parts of Wisconsin, And remember, what was the border? The Rocky Mountains. So basically, the Louisiana Territory was this whole area that all needed to be discovered. And so that's what these people were doing. They went from Illinois to Nebraska. There was North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, Minnesota. So these whole areas, Missouri, Louisiana was already, but this area had already been inhabited. This whole area was what we're talking about. Has anyone ever been to Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Oklahoma? Do you find that is it a very dry, a lot of grasses and not a lot of trees? North Dakota, South Dakota, yes. Nebraska, yes. It's very desolate, especially back then when there was only grasses. So that is what they had to move to. From a nice home in Illinois to fields and fields of grasses. So I can understand why they were a little sad, a little scared. Would you think it'd be scary to go to a completely different place with no neighbors, no town near you? Just out in the middle of nowhere. I think it'd be really hard. I think it'd be scary. But thank goodness these people did it, because if they did not do it, we would not have all of the states that we do. You think about what we're talking about right now in social studies. This whole area was yet to be discovered. So eventually they moved over the Rocky Mountains and got into Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, California, Texas. So that was all land yet to be discovered. So that is our book for the week. We have that giant book and little teeny tiny sentence. Yes, go ahead. Any questions? No, Tessa.